Hi everybody, I'm Steve Sandy from Apple World Today, and welcome to a somewhat shorter than expected AWT Live. Our guest, Jim Lee, had a last minute appointment that he had to make it to, so we are not able to actually have him as a guest today. We are rescheduling him for a future date. So I thought what would be probably a good replacement maybe is for me to talk about what is going on with Mac OS and especially Big Sur, the latest and greatest version. I had an opportunity to actually go in and test this. I was writing a piece for OWC, that's the folks over at macsales.com. If you want to read my articles over there, they're at blog.macsales.com. And it was really kind of an interesting experience. I started by trying to install Big Sur onto an external drive. That way I could just go ahead and hook up the drive. I knew it was going to be somewhat slow, but what the heck, And so I went ahead, erased the drive, got it prepped and ready to go, got on to the developer.apple.com site because Big Sur is not available yet as a public beta. But I went ahead, got the installer downloaded, got everything ready to go, pushed the button, and then went into about 4 hours of pure hell. And what I mean by that is that things just didn't work out the way that they should have. The machine, the MacBook Pro that I'm using actually to do this, kept rebooting. And you expect some reboots when you're doing a system upgrade like this, but it didn't appear that it was actually going to the other drive, the external drive. Instead, it kept trying to go to my main drive, and since this is my work machine, I really didn't want to hose things up. Well, fortunately, I have a MacBook Air that I was able to sacrifice, shall we say, to testing it. Went ahead and decided that I was going to load it right onto the SSD inside that device. Went through the process again. Took about an hour and 8 minutes to download, to go through all the various reboots. One interesting thing is that Big Sur does actually bring back the startup sound on the Mac. So every time it rebooted, you heard bong, got the bong there, and got to hear that. But it eventually, after, like I said, an hour and 8 minutes or so, came up. Logged in, went through kind of the usual startup assistant type of items, or setup assistant, where it's asking you to enter your Apple ID and password and set up a password for the device, and whether or not you want Siri, and whether or not you want privacy information, or private information passed on, all sorts of things like that. So I went ahead, got those set up, and then I was just looking at this nice screen. It kind of looked like this. No, it wasn't of the Golden Gate Bridge. It was actually one of the Big Sur splash screens or desktop scenes, and it really looks good, I've got to admit. Now what they've done is the menu bar is very, it's a translucent, I guess you could say, somewhat opaque. Made it very difficult to, in some cases with a blue background, it was almost impossible to really see that you had a menu bar except for these items that were floating out there in space. So that's kind of a cool feature. You also have sidebars that are also translucent, and they look pretty good. I noticed our guest is sending me emails here trying to reschedule. I'll have to send something back to him here when I get off. But anyway, it went really pretty well until I tried opening up some of the apps on the device. And word of warning, if you are either going to be installing the developer beta of Big Sur or the public beta when it's available, probably later this month or early in August, one thing I really, really recommend is that you make sure to just, log in with your Apple ID and then just let the machine sit for maybe 4 or 5 hours. The reason being that it does a lot during that time. It's actually doing spotlight indexing, and if you're using, like I do, the iCloud services to go in and synchronize everything from your calendar and contacts and you name it, it takes a while for all that to go on in the background. And so a lot of the Apple apps that I was trying to open up were just crashing almost immediately. You'd get this, hey, application is not responding, and then I would just do a force quit. When I let it just sit there for 4 or 5 hours and kind of get this synchronization out of the way, everything was fine. Really worked out pretty well. Not to say that there aren't bugs that I found. One bug that was just driving me nuts was with the Mac App Store. I got a notification on the Mac App Store. Hey, guess what? You've got 3 updates. So I went in, clicked Update All. You expect it to update. And it sat there, and it sat there, and it sat there, and it sat there some more. And then finally, I got a message on there, dialogue to sign into, I think it was Apple Media Services with my Apple ID. So I went ahead, put in my Apple ID, put in my password, hit OK, waited, and you can actually see spinners now next to the items that were supposed to be updated, but it never did actually start to download the update. So by that point, I kind of figured out that something was wrong, and sure enough, started coming up maybe about once every 45 seconds with the same, go ahead and log in to Apple Media Services with your Apple ID message. Not a good thing to see. So I finally quit out of that, canceled out of it, and then went in and used the feedback mechanism that Apple has with the beta software, and sent them feedback on that because it's an obvious problem. Other than that, I've got to admit, I like the look of the new operating system. Now, some of the icons, some of the app icons are really different. They've really changed. Others, you kind of look at it and you go, yeah, I'd rather have the original back. And I'm sure these are the types of things that the crew that's working on Mac OS Big Sur, Mac OS 11, are going to look at. They're probably starting to get some feedback in terms of the look and feel of the operating system, as well as the things that are definitely going wrong with it. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about changes and see a lot of changes in the beta as time goes on. Some other things, I was just going to kind of let you know what this show is going to be about in the future. As you remember, back in the days when I was with the unofficial Apple weblog, TUA, we used to have this TUA TV live thing. I think it was once a week on Wednesdays, and there were a couple of us that would get on there and we'd kind of shoot the breeze about things. And then we started doing the same thing for AWT. Myself and my good friend Marty ended up, Marty Edwards, used to get together and shoot the stuff about what was going on in the world of Apple. And we found that the audience numbers weren't that great. So it took about a year off. I mean, we really haven't done one of these for quite some time. And the future plan is to pretty much try to have a different guest every week. This week, unfortunately, our guest is not available. hopefully next week when we have Chuck Joyner from Mac Voices scheduled to talk. Hopefully he will be able to make it, and we'll continue with the show. If not, I guess you're going to see me again, which is not a good thing. No, actually, it's not that bad. Come on. But anyway, the idea is that we will do a Zoom chat. We're actually using OBS Studio. And by the way, if you want to know anything about this open source video production application, go out to blog.macsales.com or therocketyard.com and just do a search on OBS, or Open Broadcaster Software. And what you'll see is that I've done a series on how to set it up to do things like this, where you can start off with a animated splash screen, have a nice transition into a Zoom conversation. This is actually a Zoom call that's going on. And anyway, I mean, if there were two of us on here, you'd see a split screen and me on one side and James on the other. So, you know, that's pretty much what OBS does for you. But anyway, got that series out there. What we'll be doing is, like I said, split screen, myself, one other person. We may, and I'm not sure about this, but I think Facebook may actually do closed captioning, so if there's anybody out there who needs hearing assistance, just know that closed captioning will probably be available at some point. We're putting this out through a service called Restream. Now, Restream allows you to send out one stream of video, and that stream ends up being restreamed to as many sites as you want to go to. So for this show, we decided that Facebook, since we've got a good Facebook presence, would be a good place to start. We're also going to YouTube because we've got a lot of subscribers on YouTube. And then third, we wanted to get into the world of Twitter, so we went ahead and sent this out to Periscope as well. So right now, as I'm talking, this is actually going out to 3 different streaming services at one time. Pretty cool. You know, the thing that's nice about it is we don't have to really worry about having multiple streams kind of clogging up my internet connection here. Just one, actually it'll be 2 streams. I'll be going to Zoom, and then OBS Studio will be going to Restream. So now you know all the technical details. You can do this yourself. You know, do it at home, folks. It's exciting and fun. Anyway, I won't make this too long a show this week. Probably wrap it up here in about 2 minutes. But like I said, I just wanted to let you know what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be handling the technology, so to speak, what our plans are in the future. If you are a developer or happen to be a manufacturer of Apple accessories, we would love to hear from you, because we would love to interview you on the show. And it's going to be a very relaxed type of show. We're not just going to talk about tech, even though that's kind of the focus. We'll talk about you know, how things got started in your business, you know, why you chose to program for the Mac instead of Windows or DOS back in the days or something like that. So you know, we look forward to really making this a fun and open show. It's probably not going to be weekly. You know, if it does go weekly, I'll be very surprised. But you know, probably once or twice a month we'll get a guest, get things set up and arranged, and go ahead and do a live show. I want to thank you for watching today. You know, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you happen to be on Facebook and you're not a member of the or haven't liked or followed the Apple World Today Facebook page, please go ahead and do that, because you'll get notification when things like this go live. Once again, that's it for today. It happens to be Wednesday, July 8th. My God, where is the time gone? But July 8th, 2020. We will see you in about a week. Oh, I just noticed I had the top of the, I think that's the north tower of the Golden Gate Bridge was sticking out of my head at one point there, my bald head. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, everybody have a great week. We will see you, hopefully with a guest, next week. Have a great day.